Great evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, and this is our fourth Tuesday of the month. So it is our She's More Now Connectional resource. Come on in the room. As you're coming in the room, say hello. Say hello. Please like and share this page. I am going to like and share it. I have an amazing guest that's going to share with us today. So come on in, chat with us a little bit. 1 second. I'm going to share this. Hope everyone has had an amazing day thus far. As always, we always come with a topic. And hey, Felicia, how are you? Say hello as you're coming in the room. Listen, if you saw the flyer, then you already know what our topic is for today. Our topic for this She's More Now Connectional resource, where we bring together. So normally I do lunchtime empowerment talks, but at least one time out of the month, I bring in someone that can deposit wisdom into both you and I. And so I am super excited. As you can tell, I'm real pumped. I'm excited because I've had many guests, but tonight I have a special guest that's going to talk about empower me. I can, I will, just watch me. And this is an individual who has taught me how to always encourage myself, how to push beyond obstacles, how to push beyond what I could see, push beyond what I could feel. And so she is the perfect person to actually begin to pour into us about how to empower me, to move beyond how you feel and go after it all. Listen, I have my mentor here tonight, Dr. Cheryl Smith. Hey, Aunt Jackie, how are you? As you're coming in the room, please like and share this video. As always, welcome, welcome, welcome. And listen, I'm going to bring her on the screen. I'm excited. There she is.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Yes, there she is. And so, listen, you guys, you're in for a treat. This is my mentor. So listen, I have the privilege to actually be poured into a little bit differently. But listen, I'll share her with you tonight. And so I'll let her pour into you because listen, trust me, some of the nuggets that she has poured into my life saved my life. Trust me. Some of them things come back in your mind that you didn't receive when she said it, but it come back at the right time and it plays back over again. And listen, she's going to dow us with some. Listen, if you ain't got a pen and a piece of paper, go grab you a pen, a piece of paper, and listen. Make sure you write down the nuggets that Dr. Cheryl Smith is going to pour into us. Listen, I got my pen and I always got my piece of paper because listen, you're always teachable. Every day you should be teachable. Every day you should be teachable. You will never know everything. And so I'm super excited. If you haven't already done so, please like and share this video. Our topic for tonight is empower me. I can, I will, just watch. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over. Hey, Melissa. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Cheryl Smith. Listen, please open up yourself, receive what she has to say. And then in about 15 minutes, I'm going to come back on the screen and we're going to chat it up. Because I'm going to take my notes and I'm going to make sure y'all didn't miss some stuff. So, Dr. Cheryl, I'm turning it over to you.
Hello, hello. Again, welcome everyone. I am so excited to be with Dr. Dr. Shavonna, who is one of my mentees. She is such a sweetheart. And it is such a pleasure to share with her and with all of the audience that are with us on tonight. It is so important for us as we think about empowerment and as we think about moving forward to understand that who we are matters. Our lives matter and who God created us to be is important. I had on a shirt earlier today that said, who knows, but you may have been created just for this very moment. And I really think that we have to learn how to embrace the moments that God gives us in our lives, because what we don't understand and what we don't always know is that in that moment, there's some level and some measure of purpose that God has for us in store for us to fulfill. And so even when it doesn't feel good, even when it doesn't make sense to us, it has the ability to work purpose in our lives and for us. And so it is so important for us, each of us, to embrace every moment that we've been given and really understand that each moment in our lives, really is a moment to fulfill purpose. It's a moment to become who you are intended to become. One of the things that I wanted to share with you too tonight really talks about or comes from the stem point that we all have to understand that, again, who we are matters, who we've been created to be matters. And so we have to learn how to walk it out. There are times when we struggle, when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel like we're not good enough or we're not worthy enough. But we have to recognize that who God created us to be, it is so essential and so important to the world and to those around us. I want to just share something real quick that I researched that I think will encourage you. But it's interesting because part of why I feel like we matter and you matter is because we were uniquely created and intricately created. Think about this as we look at like just some facts, just some quick facts. But God created us again. We were created from the dust. So the same body that originated from dust, is birthed through now a human womb. And so this body can perform millions of functions every day. So within our bodies, we have a brain, and that brain weighs about 3 pounds, but it controls our daily functions every day. Our body has within it 263 bones, 600 muscles, 970 miles of blood vessels, and 10,000 nerves and branches. I need you to understand how unique you are and how intricately God created you. Within our bodies, we have 3,500 sweat tubes to each square inch of skin and 10,000 taste buds on the tongue that can distinguish between 7 basic tastes. Our bodies were created so that we have about 10 major organ systems that run the body. So we have our lungs that can breathe in about 8,000 to 9,000 liters of air daily. We have the heart that can beat about 4,200 times an hour and pumps about 2,000 gallons of blood daily. And then we have to understand that our body also has its own unique filtering system that removes waste and can filter, and it removes waste as well. We also have the unique ability to be able to repair ourselves. If we fall, we are and cut ourselves, we can heal. Even when we have surgeries, our bodies are able to heal themselves to a certain extent. Our brain then becomes that memory, that storage that God has given. And what we have to understand is that the brain has a memory storage that is about 1 million gigabytes, which equate to a digital recorder or for a television that could hold about 3 million hours of a television show. And so when we think about our uniqueness, we also have to understand that we are the only beings that were created of mind, body, and soul, which house emotions and passions and intelligence and conscience and will. And so when I look at all of those things, I'm also very clear that all of that points back to one basic thing, that we are God's masterpiece, that he's created us to be so intricate and so uniquely who we are, that it is no wonder that the scriptures declare that no weapon that formed against us shall prosper. Because again, he uniquely designed us to be who we are so that we can walk in it and really be empowered to do so. So the psalmist declares that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Fearfully means we are detailed, and wonderfully means we are unique. Ephesians 2:10 says we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus unto good works, which God hath before ordained that we shall walk in them. We have to understand that God made us so unique, in the essence that no matter what the trials, no matter what the tribulations, no matter what the pain, the hurts, the blemish, we have to understand he understood every scar, and everything about us was created to form something so unique and so powerful. In spite of all of our, discontentments, and in spite of all of our worries, one of the things that God reminds us that he still loves us and that he still calls us his workmanship. And the reason being is because we matter. We are so intricately important to the works that he wants us to do in the earth. And so I'm always, how do I want to say this? I'm always at a point where I want to encourage others, because I need us to understand that even in the season where we've been in, many of us have experienced many losses. Many of us have encountered not just loss of from death, but loss, whether it be through jobs, loss, whether it be through relationships, loss, whether it be through finances. But in spite of all of that, God has given us not only the ability to come back, but to come back with power, to come back with authority, to come back better than we were before. And so why is that? Because again, it goes back to how he intricately created us. He created us to bounce back. When we fall, he created us to get back up and start over again. He created us, and he's given us the abilities and the giftings in our own hands and our own minds and in our own thought processes to really become and to do greater works than we could ever imagine. The book of Daniel talks about 4 young men who find themselves in a place that they didn't ask for. They find themselves in a fiery furnace. And this is the interesting part about these young men, because they were called, they were chosen, and they didn't even realize they were chosen even to endure that affliction of the furnace. The interesting parts about these young men, the Hebrew boys, as we know them, is that their gifts and abilities brought them to this furnace. Their gifts and abilities brought them to this place of affliction and suffering. But ultimately, what God did was use it, for His glory. And so sometimes the issue of concern becomes, well, how and why am I here? It doesn't make sense to me how I got here. But guess what? Some of the reason why we're there really is tied to the gifts and the talents that God has given us, because He understands that out of this, when we come out of this, we'll have the power to persevere. We'll have the power to turn somebody else's life around and cause them to see something greater. What I want you to understand is that when God calls you to be something and to do something, there's nothing that the enemy can do to stop it. When he's chosen you for something that's specific, the enemy will try to distract you and frustrate you. And let's make it be clear. Let's let it be clear. The enemy comes in many forms and ways. It's not just a person, and it's not just an invisible being. The enemy can come in thought processes or just different situations that come our way. But we have to understand that when he calls us to be something and to do something, that there's nothing that the enemy can do to stop it. Because again, we are the plan of God. And that's what I need you to understand today, tonight, is that you are the plan of God. You are always a part of his plan. You are always on his mind to do something greater. And you have to understand that you are the plan of God. You are the righteousness of God. You are the created of his own hands and of his own mighty works. You are his masterpiece. And because of that, you really do matter to him. Your life really does depict the purposes and plans that he has in the earth. And so even in your difficult moments, I want you to be encouraged to know that there's purpose. Even when things don't make sense to you, I need you to be encouraged to know that there's purpose. And even when it doesn't feel good, or even when you're ready to quit and you're ready to give up, those are the moments that you have to understand that God is about to shift it and cause it to work in your behalf. Why? Because there's purpose in this that's greater than anything you could ever imagine. I've come to the place where I understand that God cares, and because he cares about who we are, he will come to our rescue whenever we call him. And there are moments where we don't know that we need him, but he still comes. Why? Because again, we matter. And it doesn't matter, like I said, what the enemy tries to do. He's going to try to consume us. He's going to try to frustrate us. And this is the thing. Most of the time, our levels of frustration really are in our areas of passion. The places where you become most frustrated, most of the time, are the places that are connected to your areas of gifting or your areas of ministry or your areas of passion. The people who frustrate you the most oftentimes are the people that are closest to you, but also are close or connected very intricately into your purpose and your passion. You got to understand the source of your frustration. And this is the thing, when you get to that understanding, don't allow it to make you quit, but allow it to make you move forward. Allow it to push you further. Allow it to motivate you, because out of that, God's going to show you something greater. Out of that, you're going to come out of it and look back and try to figure out, well, how in the world did I get here? Well, you got there because, again, you are the plan of God. And because you are the plan of God, nothing that he puts in your hand will fail. Nothing that he gives you will fall to the ground. Not if you follow him and follow what he's saying concerning your life. All I know is that you'll become not just a person with a purpose-driven life, but you will really become that destiny walker that he's ordained you or called you to be. I don't know, Dr. Shimon, I don't know if I got more time, but I'll keep talking if you need to.
So listen, I told y'all, so the nuggets are coming. The nuggets are down. The nuggets are coming in. I hope you've been writing them down, because I got some that we going to get Dr. Cheryl to expound on. But listen, let me tell you what I got excited about. And this is how you can tell that this is my mentor. One of the chapters, so I just recently wrote a book, and the book is doing well, is doing beyond my expectation. But listen, the third entry in the book is called Walk It Out. And so she said something tonight, and she said, you have to know who you are, and you have to know, she talked about the shirt that she had on earlier that said, who knows, you might have been created for this very moment. You may have been created for this very moment. Here's what I want you to look at that aspect of it. Many of us are looking for a moment. Many of us are looking for the moment, THEE. Many of us are looking for this combustible moment. But what happened? What would happen if the very moment that you're in right now was the moment?
Absolutely.
And you missed it because it didn't look like what you thought the moment was going to look like. And so when she was talking, she said sometimes the area that you're in, you have to learn how to walk out your purpose in every area, every arena that you are in. What am I trying to say? Sometimes, let me read you something real quick. Let me read you something. I wrote in the book, it says, sometimes you have to tell yourself to do something that your mind and spirit consider impossible. Sometimes you have to tell yourself to do something that your mind and spirit consider impossible. You have to believe that you can and will be able to fulfill whatever it is that God said for you. What does that simply say? Just like the man at the pool of Bethesda, he had been lame, but God was telling him to do something that his mind thought was impossible because he thought it would never happen. What would happen in that very moment if he would have missed that moment because his mind didn't think he could do it? Sometimes we rely on our mind for too much. I know we intellectual. Trust me, I got some letters behind my name too. Mm-hmm. But sometimes our mind clouds our ability to trust God because we think we know everything. Right. And so when she said, walk it out, Dr. Cheryl, I want you to expound on that just a little bit. When you say walk it out to somebody that's on here that's trying to figure out, Dr. Cheryl, how do I walk it out when my mind and my spirit ain't catching up to what God's saying? How do I walk it out?
I think part of that really has to come from getting to the point where you learn how to just keep moving. Sometimes a part of walking it out means I got to talk to somebody. I have to connect with other people that can push me when I'm ready to quit, when I'm ready to give up. I have, there are people that I can call, or there are people that pick me up in the spirit, because sometimes I don't even have the energy to call somebody, but I'm so connected that they pick me up and they're like, nope, what's going on? You can't give up. I think we also have to embrace the fact that there are places, like, I'll give you a good example. In Matthew 1, it talks about Mary and Joseph, and it deals with the fact that Joseph is, disappointed when he finds out that Mary is pregnant and he's going to marry her, but he hasn't been with her. Had he left her there, he would have missed his destiny moment to
Mm.
to be the father of the Savior. And sometimes we misinterpret disappointment, and when we do, we miss our destiny moments. So sure, this may not have turned out the way you felt it should, or sure, things may not be the way you would desire them to be, but we have to be so careful not to abort our purpose, because right in that place that doesn't make sense to us, it's a destiny moment. And in that moment, if you misinterpret it, you could really abort your inheritance in a sense, because
Mm.
again, it's at that moment that God's trying to show you something else. So in those times where you don't get it, you don't understand it, you have to keep pushing. You have to, again, pray. But even when you can't pray, because let's be honest, there are times, and there have been times, even myself, Dr. Vaughn, you too, I'm sure, there have been times when I've been so overwhelmed that I could not pray. I'm going to be very honest. I'm not going to be that spiritual person that acts like I'm speaking in tongues all the time, because that is not the truth. But what we do know is there are moments when I can't pray, but somebody else is praying for me. And I may not even know they're praying, but I'm so connected to whoever that is that they're going to cover me. And we have to, in this season, make sure we're covered. I also believe in mentorship. I believe everybody needs a mentor. I mentor, but I also have a mentor, because I feel like we all need that person to build us up, to push us, to motivate us. And I think we need to connect to people in that way.
So it goes back to, it's all about connection. Some of us think that we're the Lone Ranger. Some of us think we got a vision, we got an anointing, we got a gift, we running with it. We don't need nobody but God. We just out here, we gonna keep doing it, and we don't need anybody but God. And with that mentality, when you get to that low place when you can't see it, that's when you fall apart, because you're not connected to anybody who can see it when you can't.
Absolutely.
Who actually can, what you say, cover you and pray for you when you can't. Many of us, I'm not saying to go out there and get an entourage, but you need to be connected to some core individuals that can see it when you can't see it, so that when you get dark, your vision get a little cloudy, you may get a little weak in your faith or whatever, they snatch you right out of that, pull you into it, and remind you to see what you saw and not what you see.
Absolutely.
They remind you to go back to what you saw. You might can't see it right now, but don't look at what's right now. Go back to what you saw. And sometimes it's so important when we say, empower me, I can, I will, just watch. Sometimes you need somebody there that when you don't think you can, they holler at you, you can. Right. When they don't think that you can do it, they push you and say, remember, yes, you can. Because I remember many times, even in ministry and through the different transitions of my life, even when I didn't think I could do certain things, it was always like, you was like, oh, you great, you destined for greatness, this and that. And though I'm not going to lie, because I'm never going to lie to y'all, sometimes she would say it and I'd be like, whatever. Yeah, she would say, no, you're destined for greatness. This is not, this place right here is not your final destination. And at that very moment, though I didn't receive it when she said it, in that time by myself, her voice, that statement came back in my mind, like, get yourself together. And you know. And I was reminded. So you need to make sure that you are connected. And that takes us to what she said. Listen what she, and this right here is what kind of blessed me. She said, the places of frustration are ultimately the areas of your purpose. The places of frustration are oftentimes the areas of your purpose and your destiny. So, Dr. Cheryl, how do you push through the frustration so that you don't abort this destiny? Because listen, they irritate me. I don't want to be bothered with none of them. I'm sick of them. I'm tired of them. I don't want to be bothered with any of them. So, in all honesty, I'm frustrated. I'm tired of giving. They not listening. They not taking heed. They're not. I'm depositing. Don't see no results. How do I not abort my destiny because of my frustration?
I think what we have to understand is that whenever there's purpose to fulfill, frustration and opposition is always going to show up. So that's the first thing. So frustration really is confirmation that you're where you're supposed to be honest. Because what it does is allow you to know that if you're feeling that level of frustration, that there's something connected to that place. There's some purpose to fulfill in that place. And when we think about like what I said opposition and frustration will
Mhm.
always show up. Opposition really, when you look at it by definition, is resistance or confrontation. So oftentimes there are things that'll come to oppose us simply to get us off track, to get us this to distract us. That's the word. But we've got to be in a place where even in those places of frustration, we learn how to use them to grow us and not to stop us.
Mm.
I one year, like each year, I um come into a place where I acknowledge a theme for my own year, and I'll say like this is the year of, you know, that kind of thing. And one year I my theme was just unstoppable, and everything that I put my hands to, I let it push me because my theme was unstoppable, so I wouldn't stop, and I
Yeah.
continued to move just with that goal. And I think we have to learn how to speak some things and declare some things
Mm.
over our lives on a daily basis. I may not see it, but my God will supply all my needs according to his riches and glory. You know, we got to learn how to speak it. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. I don't know how I'm gonna get this done, but guess what? He's with me, and because he's with me and he's for me, then no weapon formed against me shall prosper. We've got to learn how to begin to speak those things, and even in those frustrated moments, allow the frustration to fuel us, to push us to get to the next place of assignment.
Mm. And see, and that ties to my next statement, to push you into the next phase of your assignment. So you went back to telling us about the disappointment and how if we get stuck in the disappointment, it can cause us to miss our destiny moment.
Mm-hmm.
That thing rung over me when you talked about Joseph. If he would have gotten stuck in the disappointment or spoke ill
Right.
of the disappointment, he could have missed a destiny moment. So before you chime in, I want those of you that are watching, how many of you know for a fact, you ain't gotta type it, but know for a fact you've missed some destiny moments because your feelings got stuck in disappointment? I'm one. I can testify. I have missed some destiny moments and had to repeat some things because I got stuck in a disappointment instead of allowing the disappointment to be what it is. Let the disappointment come, feel how I want to feel, but then see what God is saying in the midst of this. Because so Dr. Cheryl, how do we get out of this? That all I see is the disappointment. Now Dr. Cheryl, I see, I'm like Joseph, like all I see is I'm about to be embarrassed. I'm about to feel like I'm less than. I am at a point of disappointment. It seemed like everything that's before me is about to crash. How in the world do you expect me not to get stuck in my disappointment because there's a potential for a destiny moment?
One of the, all right. So when you think about that in context, okay, go back even with what you just said. Joseph was in a hard place. And it was a place where he might have felt like he made sacrifices. He was overwhelmed, similar to what we feel at times.
Mm-hmm.
A place where that didn't make sense, right? But
Mm-hmm.
those become the places where God reveals to us who He really is. What I like to call those moments are moments of progressive revelation. Progressive revelation. Where while God never changes, our understanding of Him changes, because as we experience things, we begin to see God differently. And so it's in those places that really what God does is He allows us to know that that thing had to happen, that His will might be made manifest in our lives. So even in those places where we're looking at it as disappointment, we've got to begin to shift it, because oftentimes what looks like disappointment is really destiny. And even though we're disappointed, even though we're frustrated, we've got to almost change our perspective. That's really the key. Change our perspective and how we're looking at it, because out of that is going to come something greater and more powerful. I tell people all the time, when I wrote my first book, Pain with a Purpose, it came out of a really hurtful place. My brother was killed in a car accident. I was journaling. I was upset. And I didn't understand at that point. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't like God. I was really upset with God, and I'm gonna say that. And people may have their comments; they could say, what you need to say. But I'm just gonna be honest. I was really upset with God at that moment, because I did not understand how He could have allowed that to occur to my brother, who was 2 months before turning 30 years old. But I began to write, and as I wrote, I was angry, and I knew I was angry. And when I finished, God told me, now that you got all of that out, go back and rewrite it again, because this time I wanted to be something that helps not only you but somebody else. Out of that book and out of my own pain, I didn't realize how many lives I would touch, when all I was doing was writing my own feelings, where I was writing out of my own disappointment. But out of that was a destiny moment. And I've seen it propel me into places and venues and arenas that I may have never been allowed in or invited to, had I not gone with that path. And so we have to look at the paths that God is placing us on, and not look at them as this is just one big letdown, but reverse how we're looking at it. Flip the script and say, even though this may not feel good to me now, even though this may not make sense now, God's going to get some glory out of this. God's going to get some glory out of this.
So would you say everything is really about perspective?
Absolutely.
And the reason why I say that is because listening to what you said gives us the premise of not to look at it as the end, not to look at it from the pain lens. So you may at this moment look at it from the lens of pain, look at it from the lens of disappointment, look at it from the lens of devastation. However, at some point in time, when you go to the eye doctor and they switch and say it's blurry now, it's blurry now. At some point in time, you got to have that adjustment that now your lens changes from when they first put it and it's blurry, or you cloud it with pain, you cloud it with devastation, you cloud it with disappointment, you cloud it with anger. And then when they actually refocus your lens, and now you can actually see that through the lens of destiny, through the lens of purpose. So now I need to now shift the perspective. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. And it doesn't mean that my feelings weren't real.
Right.
I've now just shifted how I'm going to respond to those feelings.
Absolutely.
And so that's why that whole thing with the purpose, because if we actually shift our lens and actually begin to look at it differently, some of us after the moment will realize that the moment made us better.
Yes. Yes.
The moment made us better. And I can speak from my own going through some of the darkest seasons over the last 2 years. I had to realize, and it's ironically that you said when you journal, God told you to go back and write it again. Well, when I first started writing, I wrote from a place of anger, from what I had been dealing with the last 2 years after the transition of my dad. I wrote from anger. When Pop passed, I wrote from anger. And it was at that moment when God told me, scrap it all. I was mad too, because I had a lot of pages written. He told me to scrap it. And let me tell you the revelation he gave to me. He told me to scrap it. He said, what you went through was ordained by me. So now I got an attitude with you, God. So I had an attitude first for another reason. Now you're telling me to scrap it because what I went through was ordained because, and he gave me the statement, it wasn't rejection, it was protection.
Right. Yeah.
Gave me the statement. He said, now shake yourself. It wasn't rejection, it was protection, because I needed to shift you out of some places that you wouldn't have shifted unless trauma took place. I know, but nobody want to embrace that. But that's my story. God had to say to me, there are some things that wouldn't have shifted in your life unless trauma took place. And so after then, he made me throw that whole book away. I was angry because that was a lot of writing, and told me to start all over again. Mm-hmm. And when he told me to start all over again, he said, now I want you to write from the place of victory because the shift was necessary. Mm-hmm. He said, now you're going to tell some of the dark moments, but you're going to tell it from the voice of the victor. You're not going to tell it from the voice of the victim. Mm-hmm. So you're still going to share some of the moments, but now you're going to share it with a different voice. And so to somebody that's listening, when you say empower me, when you're saying I will, just watch, mm-hmm. you got to say that from the voice of the victor, not from the arrogance of the victim that you're trying to get back at somebody, or you're trying to prove somebody wrong, or you're trying to prove everybody that hurt you or disappointed you, you're trying to prove them that you're better. No. When I say that I will, just watch, it comes from the standpoint of now I am healed, and now I can do what she said. I can shift myself, and I can walk in the fullness and embrace the moment. The moment I'm in right now, whatever the moment is right now, I'm embracing every moment that comes my way because I'm no longer dripping blood everywhere I go. Right. So now, yeah, I can tell my story, and I can tell it with a smile. I can tell it, every now and then, it hit me, and, you get a little, I'm human. Mm-hmm. But I can tell the story not with an attitude, not with nastiness and anger, because I got animosity. Now I can tell it differently. And so that's why I said it's ironic that you would say that God would tell you, okay, now you wrote all that. That's good. Now go back and write it all over again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I had an attitude. You and God might have been okay with it, but I had an attitude. Because I had a lot of writing. That was a lot of writing in the book. Like,
it was, yeah, I got you.
I had some good words that I knew some people would, I was like, I'm going to get them. God was like, what does that prove? Mm-hmm. When you say it from the wrong place, that's another thing that stunts your destiny. Absolutely. You can be right in what you're saying. Mm-hmm. But when you say it from the wrong place, it has no effect. And it actually stunts you, not the person. And so, listen, I tell each and every one of you, sometimes you got to step back, heal before you talk. Don't talk before you heal. Heal before you talk. Tell your story. Listen, tell your story. Your story matters. What Dr. Cheryl said earlier, you matter. Mm-hmm. Tell your story. Tell your story. Tell your truth. But heal, then talk. Because if you talk before you heal, there's a lot of things that's going to come out that's not going to come out the right way, and it's going to hinder you more than the people that you're saying it to. And so, Dr. Cheryl, as we are wrapping this up, what is some final thoughts that you have for us? Let them know the books that you have and where they can get it, and everything, and then also let them know if you have anything coming up.
Sure. My final thought would be really where you are in life right now. You overcome it by not fighting it, but refocusing. And so it is so important that we don't get. I told somebody in mid last year, if we get stuck in a Corona experience, we'll miss what God was trying to do out of this whole pandemic. There are some people that are still stuck, and they don't realize that there was something greater that was intended to come forth out of that. If we get stuck in some of our own experiences, we'll miss what God's trying to do out of the experience. My encouragement to you is don't focus on the experience itself, but focus on what it's producing. Focus on what it's trying to bring out of you, what it's trying to grow out of you. One of the people that I think about when I even talk about focus is Peter, when he got out the boat and Jesus told him to come. It's a whole lot of things that people say about that scripture, but the reality is Peter came on one word, come. That word was come. It was just one word, and that's what he moved on. The fact that he focused on the word was what got him initially to almost getting where Jesus was. But at the point that the wind started moving and the waves started, trembling or rolling, and he looked at the wind, lost his focus off God, then that's when they began to sink. In these seasons of our lives, are you going to focus on the wind, the storms that are going on around you, or are you going to focus on the word that God has spoken concerning your lives? Are you going to focus on what he said about you, and what it is you can have and what it is you can be? I don't care where you come from or who your family is. None of that matters when it comes to God, because he can pull you out of gutter places, out of low places, and make you high. So that doesn't matter to God. But your focus is important in this season. That's what I want you to really think about. Where's your focus? Are you focusing on what's going on around you, or are you focusing on that word that God has spoken concerning you? As it relates to me and my books, I have written 2 books. The title of my books are Pain with a Purpose and It's Okay to Breathe Again. And again, I enjoy writing. I'm constantly doing things. I'm actually working on something now. I won't put it out there just yet, but it's coming forth shortly. But you can access any of my material on my website. Is www.drcrsmith.com, drcrsmith.com. You can also access it on Barnes and Noble, Amazon.com, all of those sites. And listen, whatever I can do to encourage anybody, I'm definitely there. If you need prayer, I'm there. If you need a word to uplift you, I'm definitely going to be one, because I believe in empowering each other. Because as we empower each other, we grow and we move and we do what God has called us to do. Upcoming, there are some things upcoming. I am going to do another breathable moment. And we'll talk about that forthcoming lately. But breathable moments are really just those conferences, for those that have never been, conferences that I hold. I've done weekends and I've done virtual just 1 days. And so we'll be talking about another one that's coming up in the fall. And I'll make sure we get it out there and that Dr. Shavonna knows. But please, you want to be a part, because again, those breathable moments really connect back to the fact that we take in so much. We inhale so much in life that there are moments where we forget to exhale. And when you don't do both, then you can't live, because breathing requires taking in and giving out. So just be encouraged. As those things are coming up, I will make sure you get it. But thank you, Dr. Shavonna. I love you. You know that.
Absolutely. I love you more. And listen, I told y'all I was sharing my mentor just for the night. I mean, she will offer up herself to y'all. So, but we share her. I love and appreciate her. Trust me, I hope you wrote down these nuggets. I hope that you actually apply them. We all need them as we're traveling and we're journeying through life, through situations, through ministry, through businesses, through everything. These are the moments that you actually need, and you need to actually take in all of those. And so, listen, I hope that you receive something tonight. As always, this is our monthly She's More Now Connectional resource. More stands for motivated overcomers being restored and empowered. Tonight's session was Empower Me. I will, just watch. And so once you actually can refocus, re-strengthen yourself, you can empower yourself to declare that with authority, but most of all to walk it out. I will, just watch. And so again, my guest tonight was Dr. Cheryl Smith, my mentor. Make sure you go down here to our website. It's on the bottom of the screen, and you can actually be able to purchase her books. You can actually stay tuned for upcoming events. Then you can also head over to my website, which is at the bottom of the screen. You can secure your copy of I Am More Now Empowerment Journal. It is already out. I've already started distributing them and shipping them out. The official launch will be on June the 12th. Listen, we just want to strengthen. We just want to empower. We just want to help someone be transformed and live their best life according to God's will. And so I hope you were blessed on tonight. Most of all, stay empowered and stay focused. Don't lose your focus. Don't lose your focus. Don't lose your focus. Listen, I'll see you back here next Tuesday at 1 p.m. for Lunchtime Empowerment Talks with Dr. Vaughn. Again, I am Dr. Shavonna Whitehead. My guest is Dr. Cheryl Smith, and it was our pleasure to join you on tonight for the She's More Now monthly Connectional. Have an amazing evening on purpose, but most of all, empowered. Have a great evening, everyone.